And behold, I am alive forevermore. Amen. And I have the keys of Hades and of death. When I was a kid, my grandmother had an expression when it got really warm outside. She would say, "It's as hot as the hinges in Hades." And I had no idea what that meant, except it was really hot. Hades, in the Old King James, was sometimes translated hell. It's not exactly correct to translate it as hell. Hell is the place of torment for those who do not receive the free gift of salvation through Jesus Christ and are no longer objects of wrath. For those who reject that, hell is the eternal place of torment and punishment for those people. But that's different than Hades. Or there's a word in the Old Testament called Sheol. It's Hebrew. Hades is Greek. It's the abode of the dead. It's the place of the dead. You see, both believers, unbelievers before the cross, so I'm talking about believers in Yahweh and Jehovah and following the law and following the intent of the law, both of those, when they died, they would go to a place called Sheol, or Hades, the abode of the dead. It had two compartments in it, but they were all there. If you remember the story, not parable, story that Jesus told about Lazarus, not the Lazarus, his friend, but Lazarus the beggar who sat outside the rich man's house and begged. And the rich man didn't do anything but let his dogs run out there. And when they died, it says that the rich man was in torment and Lazarus was in what was called Abraham's bosom, but it was all within the same place. And in fact, the rich man could look across a gulf that he could not cross and see Lazarus, who was not in torment while he was. And he asked that someone would go and tell the rest of his family how horrible this is so that they didn't end up there. This was the condition of things before the cross. Now, it says that in the Scriptures, it says that when Christ died and he descended after his death, and he went into the place of the dead, and he then led out from there those who had been captive by death. Captive. Were held by death. It says he led captivity captive, so that when Jesus died on the cross, the promise he made to the man who repented and asked for forgiveness of Jesus on the cross, Jesus said to him, "Today, I tell you the truth, today, this day, you will be with me in paradise." Things changed. So that if our bodies stop today, or before the Lord comes, there's not a millisecond of time that you are not alive, for one thing. You do know that, right? When people say you died, they're wrong. You didn't die. Your body stopped working. But you didn't die. Absolutely not. It's a promise of Jesus. He who believes in me, though he die, yet shall he live. And he who lives and believes in me shall never die. That's the promise of God. That's the promise of Jesus Christ right from his mouth. And so, this body stops working, and somebody's going to do something with it. But you will be in the presence of the Lord, but separated from your body until the resurrection of the dead, and then reunited into a new body.